right, it's 7 o'clock and the board is back in open session. Welcome everyone. Special welcome to the young reporters and editors from Hollywood School that we will look forward to hearing from soon, and their families. At this time, is there any public comment? If there is no public comment, does any board member have any proposed changes to the agenda? If there are no proposed changes, then we move on to the superintendent's report.
All right, great. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see a crowd here tonight. And I think perhaps part of it is because of our first agenda item, and that is Mrs. Hefner to introduce the Hollywood School newspaper group and tell us a little bit about that. I know the students are going to share that, so.
Thank you. I think I'm going to lower this a little bit. We've got some smaller people here. Smaller than me. Thank you all for inviting us this evening. It's an honor to speak before you and share one of the great things that's going on at Hollywood. I'm really proud of a lot of the things going on at Hollywood, and I thought through, should I share PBSS with you or some of our after-school activities? But what I decided to share is our new school-wide 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade newspaper. It's just a great opportunity to see how well run it is, how many kids are involved. And the staff sponsor who's going to share it with you is Mrs. Thomasek.
Well, thank you for giving us the chance to share our new school newspaper. We're very excited about it. I have a number of very excited students with me. And I have a background in English and journalism, and I was very excited about the idea of a school newspaper. So I asked Ms. Hefner, and she said, sure, give it a try. And to my surprise, I was very thrilled. We had 40 students from 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade show up on the first day of our first meeting. And we all brainstormed ideas for the name of the paper. We had some really unusual names like the Pokemons, but a lot of variations on Husky, that's our school mascot. And they all voted and decided on Husky News. And so Husky News it has been. And they also brainstormed article ideas, and we tried to be open to whatever they wanted to do. Some said, let's interview the superintendent. Some said, let's interview some new teachers. We even had someone who wanted to do a poll of what is your favorite Pokemon. And so a student did that, and another student said, I really like drawing Pokemon. Can I draw a picture of a Pokemon to go with the article? And we're like, sure. So we're trying to be very flexible. We meet once a week on Tuesdays during recess, but you don't have to show up to every meeting. If you're interested in photography, then you might not show up at every meeting, or if you're writing or editing an article, you might come more frequently. So it's kind of a casual, anyone can come. We don't review, we have all ability levels. We don't say you can't come, you aren't able to write or edit or whatever we're doing. We try to have something for everyone. We have editing, writing, interviewing, photography, cartoons, word searches, anything that they are interested in doing. And they've been very excited. They have their little badges that they press badges that they wear. Oh, that's right. That's right. They really like going around the school. We are trying to use our technology. We had a digital camera that was collecting mothballs in the closet, and the secretary came out and said, hey, the digital camera's right here, no one's using it. We haven't used it in a couple of years. So in fact, we have it with us today. They're hoping to get some photographs. But they have been just very enthusiastic. It's just been an amazing experience and an amazing group of students that we have who are very creative and hardworking. And we're trying to use as much technology as we can. They use their Chromebooks. And we were going to show you our Husky News page that we have. A lot of the classroom teachers have classrooms for their grade. So we thought, well, why don't we have a Husky News classroom? And so we have it up there. And it's gives us an opportunity to post just like photography tips. We just had a meeting for the photographers, and they can go on there, and we have the templates. We're trying to use Google templates because it's very hard with the layout. We're trying to teach a little bit about the layout, and they're using the templates for that. Or this is from our poll, some of the names they came up with, and then we all voted on that. But we put photographs, and there's some photographs up there and articles that are in progress right now with our current issue. And we're trying to involve all the kids, because this is 3rd, 4th, and 5th, but we thought it might be nice to have the younger kids involved. So we have one of the pieces we have in there is a column of photograph, guess the photograph. So one student especially was really interested in macro photography, and he brought his camera from home, and he was going around the school taking photographs. And so every issue we're having a little contest, guess what this photograph is. And then we also are having a poetry contest, because we thought maybe we would have the younger kids submit some poetry. But it's been really nice, and the kids are very eager to come tell you what they've been working on. And I'll turn over the stage to them.
Hi, my name is Cody Livingston, and I'm in 5th grade from Hollywood School. I am doing photography and writing for Husky News. It is fun and interesting. For the first issue, I interviewed Mrs. Ryan Toy, the superintendent. For the next issue, I want to make a word search. I have learned about teamwork and friendship. Something I like about Husky News is that you learn to work with other people. I also like that there is something for everyone. You can pick if you want to interview, write, do a survey, make a cartoon, take photographs, write about the Cubs, or whatever you want.
Hi, my name is Maya Nelson. I am in 5th grade at Hollywood. What I have done in Husky News is I helped design the front page. I took photos for the Little Symphony. I wrote a story about the author visit with Natalie Lloyd. And in the next issue, I'm gonna write some interesting facts about Hollywood School. Something I have learned about Husky News is how to work as a team and how many people work on a newspaper. Something I like about Husky News is being with my friends and making the newspaper come to life.
Hi, I am Noah. I'm in 4th grade and I've written an article about the Fall Festival. I'm currently working on a poll on students' favorite animal. Something I've learned about the Husky News is I like writing, and everyone in Riverside can read it. Something I like about the Husky News is I can be with my friends.
Hello everyone, my name is Lizzie Glass, I'm in 3rd grade. I'm a photographer for Husky News. I took a lot of photographs for the newspaper. One was the classroom showcast. I also took a photograph of a new teacher. For the next issue, I took photos of the artists in the classroom. I have good friendship and good teamwork on Husky News. I really like taking photos, and I'm glad I can do what I like to do.
Hi, my name's Emma Laffey and I'm in 3rd grade. I'm going to tell you about what I've done and what I'm doing in Husky News. First, I interviewed the superintendent. Then I took photos of the science fair. Next, I'm going to interview a new teacher. I'm also going to take the 100 day photos, favorite animal photos, Daddy Daughter dance photos, and winter recess photos. Some things I've learned in Husky News are how to work as a team and to build better friendships. Some things I like about Husky News, there's a spot for everyone.
Hi, my name is Sophia Miller. I'm in 3rd grade at Hollywood School. I am here today to tell you what I am going to write and what I wrote last trimester. Last trimester I wrote about our school's book fair. That's on page 4. I also wrote about the bike hike day on page 3. This trimester I'm going to write about the Gotcha store and Spirit Days and interviewing new teachers. Thank you. Something I really like about Husky News is that I've learned to use teamwork and that everybody can make a difference.
It was very impressive. Both the presentation, you guys were great at presenting what you were doing, and also this document. I think your first edition is fantastic. I mean, I think Bob Skolnick from the Landmark is going to have some competition here. That is great. Good job, guys.
And thank you for teaching them or encouraging them to ask questions. I think that's so neat to see what they're thinking about and what they're wondering about. So thank you.
Thank you all. I'm really proud that we have an authentic opportunity for our children to write. There are things they're interested in, and that makes the writing all that more meaningful. So Sharon Thomas, I think Christine Cooley also supports the efforts, and we have a few other staff members that work together.
That's fantastic.
Too.
Thanks so much for doing that. This is really great.
Thank you all for your support.
Thank
I can
you.
imagine it's a big community builder too. Everybody's talking and the polls. I think that was fantastic.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll continue on with the superintendent's report, but thank you to the Hollywood writers. That was wonderful. So thanks so much. It's a positive evening tonight. I get to talk about a couple other positive things. I wanted to share with the board and with the public that we also had specific recognition, special recognition from the Illinois State Board of Education in regard to our exemplary best practices with our early learners program, early childhood special education and community preschool blended together at Hollywood. So another applause for Hollywood, but applause for Pam Shaw for her recognition in this area. So thanks so much, Pam.
Congratulations.
And then I get to do this again. So I had also shared that we have two teachers, Judy Sayre and Helen Bryan, who are sitting with us here tonight as a sort of our intro on this. But they had applied for a grant with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and actually applied and received a $1,000 grant with specifically, and I always want to say the name right, it's Illinois Department of Natural Resources, but it's the Schoolyard Habitat Action Grant Program. And what they tell me is they're bringing back a garden that's maybe been resting for a while. You want to chat about it for a minute? Yes.
And Judy has wonderful folders. So Kesmera Gorman, our principal, presented Judy and I with a grant situation that she was wondering if we'd be interested in for our current gardens. We have a butterfly garden and we have a prairie living classroom garden. Our prairie garden is the oldest. It's over 20 years old, and this will be our third time to revamp it just because of
Revive it.
Yeah. It's prairie plants, and as you know about life, I mean, every 10 years they need a little freshening or trying different varieties. So we are using all Illinois
Indigenous prairie
plants.
plants.
Right. Which some are very pretty to look at, and some you wonder why did we select them. But they're an opportunity for Judy and I to kind of bring back a garden club with the children, make them in charge, and
Get the community involved,
yeah.
the Riverside Garden Club, and the Olmsted. We wouldn't want to step on their toes, the Olmsted Society, so.
Right, and we're going to be working with Tom Lupfer
Yes.
to purchase these plants, and he's given us a bid, and we'll be looking for probably sponsors for the trees. We will need 2 trees. That one just passed away. I had a yellow ribbon, so it made it through construction, but it didn't make it after construction. So we're really excited. Yes.
Helen, I have a tree I can talk to you about.
Well, it's
Randy knows all about it.
To
right?
donate?
to donate, and is
Yes,
it an
yeah.
alder?
Really?
We would need an alder or a fringe. I'll just
I
put
have a
that out there on the
sugar
TV.
maple. I have a
Oh,
sugar,
sugar maple. All right, we'll talk. Thank you. We're always
So
open
in
to
spring,
suggestions.
get your gardening gloves on because we're going to recruit everybody.
And we'll have the children planning it, the children implementing it, and the children taking care
It's
of it.
fantastic. Congratulations.
And Helen and Judy have promised to come back in the spring, late spring, when they can, maybe with some kids, they can talk about the gardening work. So that's great. But congratulations to both of you, and thanks for going that extra effort to make this happen. So thanks so much. One other thing, another note of positive news, as you all know, we had an Institute Day on Friday the 13th, and it was a great success. Just, I think one of the things we were talking about assessment, which is certainly an exciting topic. It's an important topic, but perhaps I think what the standout item that I want to share with all of you is that we had 16 of our own teachers, teachers leading teachers, and I think that was just a wonderful opportunity, but also a great indication of really the collective capacity and the leadership that exists and the skills and expertise that exist on this staff. So congratulations to those. There are a few of you I know sitting out there that were part of those sessions, and thanks for that. It was, again, not only do we plan it that way, and thanks to Meryl for working with the leadership team and doing that level of planning, but then to carry it out, make it happen, and then to hear that it was such a great success and really meaningful learning. So.
I think we should clap for that.
Yeah, thank you, Linda.
I would say speaking in front of your colleagues is a different thing than your normal everyday. So I think I welcome any chance that we have for them to show their strengths and their amazing skills. And thank you for the time to produce all of that. So thanks.
Well, thanks, Martha. It'd be nice if all of your reports were this inspiring, but this is great. really good.
Keep working on it.
The next item is the consent agenda. So if the board secretary would please like to read the consent agenda for us.
And it's not 3 pages long this time, so it's not as bad. Item 1 on the consent agenda, minutes of the previous meetings. 1A, minutes of the December 21st, 2016 closed session. B, minutes of the December 21st, 2016 regular business meeting. Item 2, personnel report. Item 3, payables pre-list as of December 29th, 2016. Item 4, payables pre-list as of January 18th, 2017. Item 5, review of executive session minutes, last 6 months. And item 6, the 2016-17 wellness screening.
Thanks, Linda. At this time, are there any items on the consent agenda that a board member would like to take off for further discussion? If there are no such items, then is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Margie, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Ms. Fiver?
Hi.
Ms. Mangia?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Margie. Next item is the Riverside Educational Council. Is there anyone from the Riverside Educational Council would like to say anything? If not, then we move on to board member comments and committee reports. Does any board member have any comments about anything that they've seen or done?
I went to the staff, I know you did as well, the staff music concert. It was so great to see all the teachers, and I brought my daughter and she thought it was amazing because they're used to their teaching mode, but to see them in performances was really beautiful.
They're very talented, very talented people.
Group. Yeah,
Very,
it was really fun.
Good show.
Yeah, I heard it was great. I just wanted to make a quick, only because I got to go watch a Hauser basketball game. It was really exciting to watch, and I saw one at a different school and at our own school. The way our kids represent themselves was really impressive. They were supportive of each other, completely supportive of each other, of the other team. The environment was so positive, and even the kids in the stands watching the game, it was as a parent, a really neat experience to watch. So I commend Mr. Burke and Mrs. Munson who run the team. My son comes over for those practices tired and excited and wanting to work hard. It's pretty neat to watch.
Next we move on to the committee reports. First is the Finance Committee. Rich?
So Mr. Sellers has a couple of items in old business, but I don't know if there's anything you would like to review this evening.
I'd like to announce that the National Consumer Price Index came in today at 2.1%. Just a few percentage points higher than expected.
Yeah.
And last month was December, adoption of the tax levy. On February 1st, the committee of the whole meeting will be focused on, from the finance side, presentation of the annual audit by Peter Casella, and then looking forward to budget preparation for the 17-18 fiscal year.
Question, David, what, do you know what drove the 2.1? What was responsible for that level of inflation?
No, I do not. Gas prices have come up a bit. It's an interesting phenomenon that occur. Yeah, that's 2.1. I was expecting 1.7% would have been, reasonably optimistic, and to see a 2.1 is slightly better than expected.
May I ask a question of Rich at this time?
You may.
Thank you. How are we doing on the sustainability? Remember we were talking about some kind of a scheme for sustaining our finances with revenues along with expenses? I've been told you're working on it.
We can probably take a closer look at that for you and send you an answer to that question. I'm not prepared to answer that right now.
All right, I'm happy with that.
Sure.
Any other comments, Rich, or any other?
No, I think we're...
Thank you. Next item is the Education Committee report. Sherry?
Yeah, I mean, we're cruising along. It's pretty much a revision of the committee of the whole topics for the next few months through the end of the year. So if here, any questions? Let me know. But next month, we'll be looking at co-curricular programming and a special education update as well. March, foreign language, middle school science pilot update that we hopefully have some teacher presence and be able to hear from them how it went. Teacher evaluation process implementation, April Quest advanced learning, math implementation update, ELA recommendations regarding core programming. We have a lot of new things to try out and figure out, but I'm excited to hear about it. May, social emotional learning and PBSS at the buildings, and June evaluations and student growth after we get data in. So it's a busy few months, but exciting.
Question about the March COW on education with regard to the evaluations and student growth. Student growth wasn't on there, and I saw your email why, but that really wasn't what I was getting at. I was hoping we might get some idea of how you're approaching student growth, what the calculations look like. Sure. Could you incorporate in that? And what is it? What is the plan for what you're going to provide with regard to evaluations in March?
We're going to do a process update of the implementation, the things that have changed, and how the principals and teachers are working together in that process. And so it can easily show you how the percentages break down for the student growth and the assessment portion of that.
And the teachers, I know, are making common assessments together and have been part of. I really like that they're working together to figure out that process. It's an unknown. It would have been an unknown for me, so the fact that they get input, I think, is great. So that involves a lot of writing and time, and curious to see how the students did with it.
So that's something you'll update us on in March.
Yeah, we won't have results from all of this.
I'm not.
Just the process itself. Sure.
Yeah, and that's what I'm more interested in, even on student growth. What is the process? Where does the data come? I may have mentioned before, RB actually hires somebody to did their first time of doing that student growth. So I'm kind of curious. I'm glad we're not doing that, but how are we doing it?
And they might be using, I don't know for sure, more standardized measures, standardized assessments. So they might be looking at their metrics a little differently. We're using very close to the classroom-based assessments that the teachers are measuring actually what they're teaching, rather than using something like the NWA math or HARP.
Yeah, and I would hope that in March you might tell us why you chose that rather than standardized assessments. Okay, thank you.
And that's
Sherry,
all
any
for
other
now.
comments?
No, it was just an update on the procedure for each monthly topic.
And then policy. Linda, do we have any updates on the policy committee?
No updates on the policy committee.
Thank you. Next, we come to old business. The first item on old business is the school calendar. Is there a motion to approve the 2017-2018 school calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, then Margie, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Manchin?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Margie. We next come to the proposed facility improvements in 2017. And before reading this motion, I just wanted to ask maybe if Martha could update us on your current thinking about the facilities improvements. I know that at one point we had talked about redoing the Blythe roof in 2017, and from what I gather, you and Mr. Sellers and the architect have discussed it and are now thinking to possibly defer that until 2018. Is
Yes.
that?
Yeah. So it's our recommendation, and actually it's sitting there as a non-action item, just so that people didn't think we had left that off. But there's been a lot of discussion about the Blythe Park roof, and actually Carrie Matlock, our architect, is here tonight. And David Sellers and Carrie and I met last week by phone, and it just looks like there's enough sufficient complexity to it around the roof replacement that the additional time would, I think, benefit all of us.
Is it relating to gutter work and other such issues?
It's gutter work. It's potentially the, see if I can say all this, the vapor seal, the distance of the windows to the roof line, the gutters, the pitch of the roof. So there have been a couple things that have been just something that we need to make sure we fully understand as we move forward.
So what we're voting on?
Do I sound like a roofing expert?
That was perfect. I wanted to just show you, this is a letter from Ridgeworth Roofing. They've inspected the Blythe Park roof, and this I would like to just pass that down. Take one copy and pass it down. This is the modified materials for this meeting with the Blythe Park roof marked as deferred.
Okay.
So everything else is the same with Blythe Park deferred, and then this is an indication that the roof is not without some risk, but the inspection yielded no red flags, nothing that would say there's an urgent need to replace the roof. Level of confidence that summer of 18 will be fine. If there is a leak, we will get it repaired quickly. The last time there was a leak, it was a $1,500 expense, and it was done fairly quickly, so that's the kind of plan for between now and summer of 2018.
Thank you. So the motion then is to approve the facility upgrades that are indicated here with the Blythe roof deferred until 2018. Is the motion. So is there a motion to approve the proposed facilities improvements for the summer of 2017 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I think it's reasonable to defer that roofing project. When we look at where we're sitting in the calendar year here, we really want to have our bids out by this time. If we're not in the position to have those bid materials out, we're not going to get as competitive pricing for the district as we really want to. As long as the administration is confident that we're not going to have any leak disruptions, or we're going to be able to respond to those leak disruptions in a very timely fashion, then I'm okay putting that work off.
I think that's a good point, Rich, that, waiting to make sure we get as many bids as possible is a good idea. And I agree also with the comments that it sounds like there's a lot of things to think about with the roof. We don't want to rush into it until we really know exactly what to do.
Well, I wanted them properly, yeah.
Is that what's driving the decision to defer it? Just getting out the time bid package at a better time?
Well, I think as they explained, they just want a little bit more time to investigate the right process and the right material and the right recommendations.
Okay.
Which, that investigation time is going to push us outside that time period when it's most advantageous to get bids.
Do we have to coordinate with the historical aspect of the?
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Okay.
Another one of the elements, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's an unusual roof line or something, right? Okay.
I would guess that changing of architects have probably not set us back a little bit, but just given us a chance to pause and to rethink things a little bit and make sure that we're on the right path.
If there's no further discussion, then Margie, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Brockway?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Ms. Clyber?
Aye.
Ms. Mangio?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Margie. The next item is the Blythe Park roof proposal, which we've just discussed. It's not an action item, so is there any further comments about this? If not, then we move on to the recorded deed of 492 Repton. We now have the deed for the property, and I guess you guys were in the property. You were in the house. You had to break in, I guess, or something. Is that right? Or
Bill Radke was in there. I haven't been
We
in.
had to destroy a lockbox. And I want to express appreciation for Mr. Brockway drawing our attention to a company that will inspect the property, and if there's anything of significant salvage value, they'll provide that guidance and facilitate us disposing of anything that's in the house that might be significantly of interest to an architectural salvage company or something like that. First blush, I haven't walked through the place myself, but Mr. Radke's report to me is that he doesn't see anything of
Value.
striking significance. But you know that we're not the professional eyes, and we're looking forward to working with this company and seeing what they can do for us.
do we have a timeline for the demolition at this point, or a rough timeline, or?
I received one communication from the Riverside Fire Department expressing interest in running a grill in the, so I need to follow up on that. I would recommend to the board that we give the fire and perhaps the police department an opportunity, but then as soon as possible thereafter proceed with demolition. So I'm speculating that within 60 days, if it's the pleasure of the board, then within 60 days we would see the property demolished and some infilling for safety purposes. We would give the fire and the police department a limited window of time to utilize the property, and they promise that they will give us all of the insurance waivers and those types of things, and that it would be beneficial and it would not be disruptive to any instruction. They would do it at a time and in a manner that would have no impact on student learning.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm assuming it falls under Mr. Radke's responsibility to make sure that the property is secured and locked and safe in the meantime until it's done.
Locks.
You did, okay.
Locks were already changed.
Okay.
The property is secured.
Okay. Great, thank you.
David, do you have to go out to bid for the demolition?
No.
Okay.
It's the threshold for bidding of that type of work would be $50,000. This is going to be a fraction of that cost.
Okay.
Any other questions about the Repton property? Comments?
No, just glad we own it.
I'd also like to thank Randy for bringing up the salvage or introducing the salvage company. I think you never know what you can find as a value, so definitely worth a look. Next item is the new business discussion. So the very first item on that is the master facility plan overview, and our new architect, Carrie Matlock, is going to introduce the facility plan overview.
Well, thank you for having me back tonight. Great to be here. Excited to embark upon this process with you. It's an exciting process, and I think architects' processes in general, processes in general are a little confusing to most people. And this one is especially because it's something that we have adapted to specifically meet the needs of Riverside 96. So there are a lot of steps that's customized to your needs, and Martha and I have talked about what we think that's going to entail, and we've put a proposal together, and then we've come up with a schedule. But basically, it's going to be an in-depth analysis and a lot of communication back and forth from your staff, your students, your community, and we're going to wind up with a lot of information that's going to be synthesized down to hopefully be used as a tool for you to make decisions in the future. You talked a little bit previously about that pause, which is not such a bad thing, because that might be allow us to have some synergy with that pause, because it's going to allow us to take a bigger look at your district. And noticing, talking about the roof, we noticed some things. We noticed some overlap with some potentially other projects along with that while we were investigating that. I'm not alone in this process, but my focus for your district will be to lead you through this process specifically. We also have Ilario Namaro who will be participating. He is more of the day-to-day architect project oriented, so he will be participating in the implementation process just to kind of revisit where we were. So he'll be coming in and out, and he'll follow along with this process as well. He's also very interested in everything going on in the neighborhood, as he had mentioned before. So looking forward to embarking upon this process, and we're going to start by doing this introduction. It's on our schedule. We set that for January. February is really going to be more of the interviews and survey time. We're going to take advantage of that. March, you'll have that spring break, so that's going to be where I have our engineers and our architects surveying all of your facilities while the students are not in there, so we don't disturb any educational processes. And then as far as in April, we're going to start to look at design, some community engagement. There are a lot of different milestones that we'll need to hit throughout this process. So there is a lot of work and a lot of time that we're going to be spending with you over the course of the next 6 months. So I can't really detail that. I'm sure you don't want to hear about every single detail tonight, but I do want to tell you that it does involve a lot of travel time here, sitting and meeting and talking and walking through facilities and getting to know the ins and outs. Also, taking any type of previous report that you've done in the past and integrating that in, making sure that we understand what's already been done and not duplicate anything, and then integrating it in so that you'll be able to take a look at that big picture all together at once. And hopefully, in July, you can start prioritizing some of these projects for implementation, and then we can talk about the right time to bid things. And hopefully that is in the fall. That's what we like to do, and get good bids, like you mentioned, which is a great idea and a very good point, and it's something that we certainly want to take advantage of. Any questions?
Sounds great. Sounds like a thorough process, so thank you very much for presenting that. We'll look forward to starting that.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. So the next item on the list is...
I was going to say, the one thing I might add too is we'll have this Facility Advisory Committee, essentially Superintendent's Facility Advisory Committee, and both Rich Regan and Linda Murphy have agreed to be the board members representing the board on as that committee. So we'll be, Carrie and I, now that we've sort of officially launched this, we'll be getting our calendars organized and reaching out to both of you, but also reaching out to our cabinet district administrators as well to be part of that committee.
Good. Sounds good. Thanks, Martha. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent evaluation form. So back in December, Martha and Patrick, Pat, and I sat down and we reviewed a number of templates that have been used. The IASB templates, the template was used here in 2013, 2014, and then a number of other ones. And we put together a draft that Martha circulated to the board, and there are basically two parts. One part is the goals, that the district goals and the superintendent goals that we outlined in the superintendent's contract, and also the goals that we approved, the annual goals we approved in September. So that's one part, and then there's another part which basically concerns different indicators of the skills we want the superintendent to have. So, for example, communication and things of that nature. And so I think everyone's had a chance now to review those drafts, and I think Mary Rose had a few comments about that. So,
yeah, I have some questions. I guess sort of in the interest of continuity from board to board, trying to get a consistent form among superintendents, you want to basically review the superintendent along the same lines as other ones. I guess I'm wondering, why wasn't stronger consideration given to the existing form?
We used a number of different items in the 2013, 2014 form. We pulled a number of different items out of that were not in the IASB form. But I think I think there was a sort of consensus that the IASB form that we're looking at was a little bit simpler, maybe to understand, at least for me to understand it. So that was, I think, the motivation.
Yeah, and I guess you do understand a considerable amount of work, research, going to classes went into that form. So I guess I'm disappointed that we didn't rely on some of the expertise that we already had, and some of the 3 people on this board have gone to classes on this. So anyway, I'll just state that and then move on. The other thing that I would like to...
Really quickly though, because I am one who went on classes too, and I just want to make sure that we all get to... I don't want to, in that comment, I don't want to be spoken for as one of the people that attended the class for free, because I actually like the new form. So
okay, that's fine.
I did also read and went to workshops too, and so I just want to
but
make sure.
my understanding was they really didn't present a Form 2 in those workshops, as they did not in mine either.
Well, right, and for various reasons. We can get into that after.
Yeah, I would be interested in hearing that. And the ISB had about 6 different forms, and I don't think they were recommending any of them. But anyway, the second question I have is, most of what I've read and what I've seen, and what is consistent with what we're doing for our own teacher leaders and for our own teachers, is we have pretty specific rubrics. And I noticed that was missing. And that I don't see really strong indicators that are as specific as in a lot of the forms I've looked at.
Well, I don't know anything about rubrics. I mean, I'm not into this rubric thing. I mean, personally, I don't really follow all that stuff all that well. I mean, I think look at a very straightforward way, which is we have certain goals, we have certain qualities that we want the superintendent to have, and we write them down, and here they are, some examples, and then people have the opportunity to comment in great detail, if they want. So I want this to be a meaningful exercise where people have meaningful comments, like, okay, I noticed this could be improved, or this is really good, and not, I don't know, I'm not too keen on the rubric side of stuff. So.
Well, I'm just saying we do use them for our own teacher leaders. We use them for our teachers. They are recommended, but again,
right,
all right,
we agree. I think that's a slightly separate topic as well, because if you go back and look at all of these evaluation forms, from the ISB, from the one from 2013, the one that the high school uses, there's no rubrics in any of them. They're just different indicators. So a rubric is a slightly separate thing, I think, from what we're talking about here, which is just the evaluation template.
I think for me, it's a matter of what evidence or artifacts we choose to ask Martha to show for these goals. It might be growth goals for her administration. It might be presentations she's done. It might be agenda items that she has organized to support community development, or the letter she sends out to the community, whatever we want to put for the specific goals. Now, these are goals. They're not...
My questions relate to the second, which are more skill sets that are required of a superintendent. And it is... and
depends on...
No, I agree. I agree with you there, because they're weighted, and it's weighted, and certainly the goals are the most important.
Well, and I think having a different, more even than a teacher evaluation, we have 7 people evaluating, which would never usually happen even for a staff member. This is an extremely varied group of people that are going to give as many details as we want regarding her progress. So I think that's pretty comprehensive in itself.
So can I just ask a few questions just so I know the history, because I was not on the board at the last evaluation. The evaluation that was used with the previous superintendent, was that something that had been used under the 2 times previous superintendent? Was that used with Dr. Lamerson too? Because we talk about continuity.
Well, why don't we start with the fact that Bhavna did have in her goals to assist the board in developing an evaluation system. So this was literally in her contract.
Okay. That's what I'm asking.
And it was a goal set by the previous board. And so that's where the continuity came. If it probably had not been in that particular contract, we probably would not have put the effort into it. And again, so the previous board, Art lent me a book that Jennifer had, and Art and I were on a kind of a committee, and we kind of rolled around, and we looked at a lot of different things, and actually tried one form that somehow wasn't working out. But that's where the continuity came.
I remember, Mary Rose, what I recall is that evaluations prior to our board were almost nil. Whether they were
So it wasn't a very.
there was no evaluations of the administrative team, the principals, or the superintendent. So we really.
Is that true? I mean, I honestly don't have detail on that. Are you certain of that? No administrators are evaluated? I find that hard to believe.
Well, they had not been.
Very cursory.
They had not been according to requirements of their contract and so forth. So
I personally, not that I don't take your word, I would just like to see some data or evidence of that.
Well,
you'd have to. If we talk about continuity, it really should be about, are we serving the community's needs?
Yes.
And our strategic plan goals are the first place that we looked to do so.
Yeah.
And that's my most important thing in this evaluation tool, are those
let me
goals.
just say that
it is. They're important. Very.
Dr. Lamberson had not been evaluated.
Okay, we don't need to rehash the past. I just wanted to know if there
I'm
was
just
a continuity.
I'm answering your question. And he had not evaluated the principals and the administrative team. I mean, that was clear. So I think what had happened was Mary Rose had to start from scratch.
Right.
And she and you put great effort into it, and you brought us a long way in a short period of time. So I do appreciate that very much. I just perhaps there's a time to evolve it to another level.
Yeah, it seems that it's because it's got less detail. There's less commonality of, and I'm talking specifically the second half. Yeah, I mean, the goals are the goals, and we're going to have to agree on that and what the evidence is, and how we evaluate that without being too burdensome. But again, and I guess here's why I talk about the skill set so much. These indicators are a list of skill sets. And for me, it's very important that we all understand that we are not evaluating a teacher, a superintendent as an educator. We are evaluating them as a leader of an education institution, and that's a whole different set of skill sets. And when you just kind of, and I'll pick on the ethics indicator, not that it isn't, when you say, well, honest and, they're honest and integrity, well, if you don't have some idea to inform what that means, then but anyway.
That was our number one criteria when we were hiring the superintendent.
That's correct.
That we wanted someone who was ethical.
The first thing we
it's one of
talked
those
about.
things where if you don't know what it means to be ethical by the time you're 18, you're never going to know. So it's like you don't need to, he doesn't have to.
Lead by example. That is evaluating the leadership.
Well, I pulled the statement of ethics from one of the superintendent trade organizations, and it is a lot more specific. But I don't want to dwell on that. That's just an example. And I hear what you're saying about Jeff. I mean, you give me an explanation of how you've arrived at what you're recommending. So so I don't know what more you can ask other than that. But I did have one other question. One of the particular disappointments for me on this particular form, it does not have a separate superintendent-board relationship domain. A lot of the forms I've seen have that. And this is, and again, most of the forms I've seen only weight them about 5 or 10%. I mean, the goals are what's important. All of the other things are important. We don't want to dwell on it, but it is the only time the board is going to specifically get to talk about, are we satisfied with the way the board agreements are being, the superintendent agreements are being adhered to? Are we happy with the way the meetings are going? So again,
I hear what you're saying there, and I'm certainly not opposed to adding a section like that. The section that you had drafted, I find to be a little too much.
I mean, you can go ahead and edit
specific.
We don't have a separate section on board superintendent relations, but we have many items in there relating to that topic. Communicate regularly with Board of Education, follow board policy. maintain transparent and honest relationship. with
Is there
Board of
anything
Education.
specifically where we can comment how are we satisfied with the caliber and quality of information? in
Absolutely.
meeting?
I think that most of the page is left blank for comments. So I think the hope is that people will make specific
if you think
comments
about
about what they think is working, what they think is not working, and not to get. These are just examples.
When you have one Likert scale to evaluate a list of 20 things, I think that definitely, I think we need to realize if we're using one scale to give a score on ethics,
those are
they're overarching, but there's plenty of room to comment on the specifics. So for me, if I could just go back really briefly about what I took out of the workshop on superintendent evaluation and the reason they didn't present rubrics, because from what I got out of it is that they said the importance of the evaluation process is the relationship building between the board and the superintendent and making sure that we're partners in this, and that the rubric necessarily didn't matter as long as it was a rubric that the board supports and the superintendent supports. It's not really the important aspect of it. And that's what I got out of the workshop I attended with Rich, was that they were like, we're not going to talk about the rubric because you can go get a sample rubric anywhere. You can create your own rubric anywhere. So let's talk about why we're doing the evaluation, the importance, what content should be in it.
But they weren't against rubrics, and many states do mandate a form.
Right, and Illinois does not, so.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add to this discussion, Rich? I know you as Linda mentioned, you were also part of that evaluation.
We went to the same evaluation process, and as I recall, how they started that meeting is they showed about 5 different evaluation types, and they said,
quickly,
there's no good one.
Yeah.
The good one is the one that you develop as a relationship builder between you and your superintendent. So, the way I look at this is that there's enough, as Linda said, there's enough space on this to write whatever you want to. If you're concerned about one aspect or another, you can adapt the form as you need to. I'm very satisfied with the way this exists, and I'll preface that by saying I wasn't a part of the board when you guys were challenged by creating a form based on the circumstances that you were faced with. But I think we're in a great position right now. And I don't know if anything else needs to be said about this. I'm one for moving on at this point.
Well, I do have questions no more about the form, but about the process. And again, just the value of experience on this. You've got a timeline, and are people expected to fill them out?
So I think the process was that the way I talked to Barb Toney at the ISB, she led our workshops. I talked to Pat, talked to Martha, and the process that I think that people typically, or boards typically follow is we agree on the template, then the superintendent sort of gives herself at some point a self-evaluation saying how she thinks she did and the evidence for that. We look at that, we each look at that individually, fill out the form, each of us individually, what we think, and then we send that to the board secretary. She puts them all together. We then meet in closed session and talk about, kind of come up with a consensus on each item. And then I would meet with Martha to sort of review that consensus. And then we would all meet with her after that, after she sort of had a chance to digest the review. We'd all talk about it in closed session again. So that's sort of that was sort of the
All right,
proposal.
I guess I'm talking about the specific write-up. So whatever comments that anybody makes, if they, Margie's going to just put them on, unfiltered, unedited.
We have 2 options there. One is, I think, for the numerical scale, the numerical scores, we could either give some kind of mean or median, or give the whole distribution. And I think I talked to Martha, and she said that she would like to see the entire distribution. Likewise, I think you said you wanted to see all the comments, and I guess the only question then is, do we want to strip out the names so people can be frank and just hear the comments, and then you just see a bunch of comments? Or leave the names on? I don't.
I think the names should be on there.
Should be on. Yeah.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, some of us tell her verbally anyway.
And I agree. This is not a teacher. I'm sorry. This is not a teacher evaluation, but part of me still says we should treat our superintendent the way that our teachers and staff are treated, in that they know who is evaluating them.
Yeah.
They have conversations together.
I totally agree.
And
Yeah.
I don't mind putting my name on it, and whether it's good or bad, I think it's important for her to know how our relationships work individually as well as a whole.
And then I noticed, will all board members be signing the form, and do we have to
everyone
vote?
everyone will sign their own initial, their own form, and then after we meet in closed session, we'll come up with a kind of consensus document, and then that consensus and each individual form will go back to Martha then, and I'll talk to her, say, okay, here's the basic overview, and then she'll have a chance to think about it, and then we'll all meet in closed session on a subsequent date so we can then talk about it in more detail. So that was the sort of the idea. If everyone agrees with that, everyone's okay with that.
I think it's great that you get a consensus. I think it's important for us to give her one evaluation that is, a consensus of the board. One, like the board feels this way, and she's,
Look at the individual
suggested that
comments.
she's interested in hearing everything. So then she gets to see individual ones too.
Just by way of background, if there is an outlier, the way we handled it last time, we did a minority review.
Right.
I mean, there's a minority, and that's not ideal. It's not ideal, but the goal is to try to get consensus. And is it typical to vote to accept the evaluation?
Evaluations are closed session items, I guess. Personnel evaluations. I'm not sure there's
I think
a
you mean to vote to accept the tool.
Yeah, that or, but I mean, it's a closed session item in terms of the discussion and the release.
Yes.
But I don't know. I'm just asking the question. We didn't.
We vote on what exactly on the
On the fact that we've done an evaluation, we didn't want to release it.
We adopted the evaluation. Yeah. I mean, I have no.
I don't know if you want to ask about it. We didn't. I'm not sure. We should have. I don't know if we should have or we shouldn't. But I do wish we had had this open session discussion 2 years ago. I think a lot of things would have gone smoother if we had.
Yeah, probably.
So that's why I think this is a good idea.
So it sounds like we have agreement on the template and on the procedure to follow. So, Martha, you're good with all that?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So then the next item is the personnel report. I think, again, Mary Rose had some questions on the personnel report that I don't know if you want to ask the questions, or Martha, I know you've been doing some work on the questions Mary Rose had, so I don't know how you want to.
Well, here, I'll just tell you about the report. The personnel report. This has come kind of an outgrowth of the discussion that we had as a board not too long ago about whether that report is complete and whether we can, in my first 2 years on the board, I would find later on that something that I voted for was not what I understood it to be. And we've had that crop up again. And so I've asked Martha if we can kind of talk about this at the board. Are you feel comfortable that your processes will capture everything that it's supposed to capture, or that they, I know you've said you're going to review the processes, and are you comfortable that when we see that personnel report, is it a complete report?
Yeah, I've had our actual format of the report reviewed by our attorney, and she thinks it's, appropriate. I think the question that we had talked about was how we handle those kind of out of the ordinary circumstances, and I think sometimes our understanding of what is out of the ordinary is also now coming together as and this board superintendent relationship, and the commitment I have to that. If they're out of the ordinary personnel circumstances, those would be shared in closed session as appropriate, so that you would be able to make decisions, and that decisions that require roll call vote, and of which there are not a lot that require roll call vote. One would be like honorable dismissal, termination of a tenured teacher. I know, Mary Rose, you had specifically asked that administrative contracts not be included under consent agenda, and I think that's a good recommendation for us to, and again, I'd have to go back in our history to understand where it was or wasn't included as consent agenda, but those, it would be good practice for those to be separate items.
Yeah, it's because through various, I don't know if they're PAC rulings or challenges to various board meetings, they want you to read those, do them in open session and read the contract terms, and that doesn't lend itself to being on a consent, not so much a consent agenda, but sort of being on a person. I kind of look at the personnel report as a consent agenda within a consent agenda. And, you know, and some things, are, you know, you just have to know. And the other thing is there's not a lot of things that are deemed to be confidential on personnel matters. Evaluations are and non-personal information, but they're really not. You could probably FOIA a whole personnel file and get a lot of it. You know, there are things that are subject to FOIA and personnel matters and not. So I did want to mention that. But I guess the other thing is you provided a template, and I saw the part about leave of absence, and I would like to see that separated into FMLA leave versus other leaves of absence, because FMLA is more routine.
It can be. And again, that's the advice from our attorney, is that we make sure that we are looking at these things case by case, because there are times where an FMLA leave could be considered more confidential. Because of, I think we think often it's for the birth of a child in a school district. It's not always the case. So what our attorney shared today is that I think we need to consider that case by case, that there are times where an FMLA leave may be considered more confidential.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we talk about it in open session, or, but I mean, for the most part, we're going to approve them. And, you know, it's what I consider routine. And
you're informed about them, because some of those are, you know, obviously we have a very detailed section about leave of absence in the negotiated agreement and the collective bargaining agreement. And what some of that boils down to is there are some unique case-by-case determinations that need to be made. Some absolutely say that the board needs to vote on, and others are essentially required by law. And it's a question of approving and communicating effectively with all of you.
yeah, and what I'm concerned about is that we don't, every time we get you know, there's a change in administration, we're not reinventing the wheel. You know, that we do things the same way, that they're highlighted the same way, and I mean, we're talking about, yes, we want a good relationship and we do rely on you to tell us things, but I rely on every superintendent to tell us things, and sometimes we just don't get, you know, as I said, I always get a little bit upset if I've approved something and then I find out later it wasn't what I thought. And so I'm just trying to find ways to avoid that.
But there are letters associated with all the personnel.
Right. Are you reading all the materials? I don't mean to sound trite. I'm just trying to figure out, are there other board members that feel like we're voting for things that we don't know we're voting for?
I don't, because I read all the individual letters about the
It usually
requests
states
for the resignation.
They're all attached.
They're attached, but I don't feel I should have to audit the thing.
Well, that's not an audit, it's a letter written
audit.
to the Board of Education.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I would like it, the ones that should require more of my attention to be highlighted, and...
Well, that depends on you.
Yeah, I don't think you can expect somebody to know what...
As I said, this discussion that we're having sounds different, a little bit different than the one we had, you know, a couple weeks ago. But be that as it may, I'm bringing this up as an outgrowth of that discussion. I'm just expressing my concerns. And Martha, you're assuring us that you're going to be as complete and as...
So, yeah, let me ask, is this discussion we're having tonight, is it pertinent or related to the situation that we spoke about last month with a...
That's why it's on the agenda.
With the leave request and the board not being fully apprised of that situation. Is this?
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail, but yeah,
No.
I thought it was worth reviewing our procedures and also we also had, in my opinion, you should. If you're going to materially change a job description, that should be approved before you hire into it, and that didn't happen prior to Martha's tenure. So again, I just think it's worthwhile to review the procedures, express our feelings about it, and I thank you. And I don't think there's more to say on it.
What your research, you looked into the contract, and you attached that to the workbook, and there's about how many pages?
Jeff, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, Martha looked into the collective bargaining agreement that Rich and Rachel and Sherry negotiated with the teachers back a year ago.
Yes.
And a lot of this is governed by that contract. A lot of it's very detailed and specific, and it's incredibly complicated in a way. It's like 3 weeks here and 2 weeks here, and it's,
it is.
And yeah, so I think, I mean, that maybe is something that, you know, when the next collective bargaining comes up, we can look at that, you know, carefully again. But I think a lot of it, from what I gather, is governed by that document. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
Or?
that's right. That is the governing document. Yeah.
Yeah,
and board policy.
I looked
that
at
they
it, I
match.
compared it to last year's and all that. But as I said, I just want to make sure that what's being presented to us is, you know, is we're getting what should be presented, that we're complying with the law. We're supposed to approve new positions, approve reconstituted positions or change positions, and we're supposed to approve, you know, the personnel report. And some things are not routine and others are. And you know, like whatever you can do to help us.
Yeah.
Highlight that.
And that's certainly my commitment, is to make it very clear to you, you know, you are able to do the work you need to do as board members, the work I need to do as a superintendent, that we have clear agreement and clear communication about those.
I'm good.
Good. Any other comments about this topic? If there are no other comments, then we come to the second public comment period. Is there any public comment? If there's no public comment, then the future meeting dates are January 25th. We have a special meeting at 7 o'clock here in the Hauser Learning Resource Center, which is an update on the annual update on the strategic plan. February 1st, 2017 is the committee of the whole meeting at 7 o'clock in the Hollywood Gym. February 15th at 7 o'clock in Hauser is the business meeting, February business meeting. March 1st is the committee of the whole meeting, 7 o'clock in Ames. March 15th is a regular business meeting at 7 o'clock here in Hauser again.
Jeff, I'll just interject. I just learned today that there are a lot of activities going on at Hauser on February 15th in particular, so look for probably a reschedule. We may even just flip the Hollywood and Hauser meetings that month. I just found out about that about 5:30 today.
Flip the location on that. You'll let us know. Okay.
We'll let you know.
All right. Is there any further business?
I would like to talk about the what do we call that report? The substitute teacher report or the attendance report?
Absence
report.
Reason report.
Yeah. We've kind of talked around this report, but this is a reconstituted report from what we originally had. And I wanted to clarify for the board, again, a little bit of a history, that this was never intended to be an attendance report. That was never the goal of the board. It was basically to figure out how often students had substitute teachers, which is not optimal, and kind of to manage, not manage, but make sure we had some sort of a sense of, was this 90% of the time, or you know, that we were fully staffed 80% of the time. And this was never about tracking individual teacher attendance, and yet somehow I think it's kind of morphed into that. And actually the thing that actually drove that report was not absence, our request for that report was not absences, but the enormous amount of committee work that was going on, where, you know, where literally we would hear from the community how often their kids had substitute teachers. So I wanted to mention that.
I think this report includes that, what you're talking about, includes the substitute report as a subset. And it also includes the absences, and I thought that we had asked for the absences to be added after Dr. Powell had talked to us in the summer, I think, before he left, about what he perceived as perhaps excessive number of absences and certain dates and things of that nature. Yeah, so that's I think that was the motivation, right?
Wasn't I think so, and I could be wrong, but I thought, Randy, that you had requested that as part of it. I could be wrong.
I think we collectively asked for some more detail on this.
We did, but a couple things are, again, well, I don't want to say what's missing. First of all, this thing doesn't have any kind of legends or keys, so I don't understand sort of what it's, you know, what some of these calculations mean. And then the key calculation is what's the substitute teacher as a percentage of staff, so this can be tracked over time. And I think that's, you know, and that would be number of classrooms that would require substitute teachers. Some teachers, if they're absent, we don't need a substitute teacher. but some we do. And so that I can so that it can be tracked over time, especially when you have fluctuations in staff. You have 255 teachers one year,
155, yeah.
and that's really what it is. And I don't know, Martha. Does everybody? Can everybody read this report and understand it?
I can. I'm fine with that.
I think I understand the report. I agree that the particular item you're asking for
Right.
is not on there, but I think that should be easy to add that because it was on the old report, so why not add it?
Yeah, I mean, and part of it is I actually tried to compute it today, and there was, I was having difficulty with some of the columns and what they meant. And also administrators are in here, are they not? They're all,
Yes.
it's all mixed
This is all
in.
employees.
So again, I don't know that it says administrators are there. Oh, when you say is it all certified employees or?
My understanding is it's all, it's our non-certified also, and classified.
So again, I mean, I think it's great, that it serves as an an overall attendance and manpower report, but I don't want to lose sight with what its original purpose was to make sure kids are getting substitute, not having too high of an incidence of substitute teachers.
And that's my recollection. 4 years ago, when we asked for this information, it was all about addressing the first year of the previous superintendent's tenure, and we were playing catch up with Common Core. We started with 0 in September, and we ended up doing so much of that professional development for Common Core, pulling teachers out of the classes, and the substitutions rose to the level that it became of great concern to our community and to the board. Too bad Rachel's not here, but she was certainly very concerned about it, as were you and I and the other board members at the time.
I have heard from the community that the level of substitutes were high even the year before Bobnet came, and I don't even remember, I don't know why that would happen, but it seemed like it was a particular problem, and again, a quick way to low test scores is having a lot of substitutes, and I mean, I think tracking, attendance is a good thing, but it was never the primary focus of this report.
No.
So the other thing, I don't know if it's possible or if to easily separate out the certified from the non-certified, the administrators from the non-administrators, because again, it's a summary level report, but again, and like I said, I don't, not sure it's. Well, I'll let the board decide what they wanted to monitor. I just want to monitor substitute teachers.
Well, this has the number of absences needing substitutes, so already it's implicit in there. So I think if we had the total number of teacher days per month, I think that would be sufficient. Right?
Yeah, if it's easy.
That works. Is that the consensus that we ask the Martha to add that?
To keep this report the same, but focus on that
one number, basically, that Donna used to calculate.
Yeah, as the issue that Pat brought up to us, and it was quite alarming, and he did last May, was the number of teacher absences.
That was Griff. Remember?
Griff, yes. So I would like us not to lose track of that data and what he had brought to our attention.
Right, and I think that's why we now have this more complete report. The report that's more complete than the old report.
Okay, and it really dealt with the very few teachers that perhaps had more than 10 absences per year, and that's where that information became valuable to us as a board and as the school district.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or any questions on any other business? No other business, then the meeting's adjourned.